Hey y'all, this is Kasakwa Keparu for New World Dimensions. And today I want to title this video, Cast Away the Good Book. And what I mean by the good book is I mean that anything that is constraining your thought process. The Bible, the Torah, the Quran, get rid of it. You don't need it. And I'll explain why. But before I do that, I want to ask you a question. Put simply, are you stupid? Are you deficient in any mental faculties? Of course not. And it's a very insulting question. I don't expect you to answer it. But the reason why I pose that question is because many ministers and preachers sell you an idea that truth is written in the good book. And that the good book is the word, and it's infallible. You can't question it. It is truth, meaning it is looked at as a historical document, not a religious document per se. So that to understand truth and life and God's will for you, you have to read that in the book. That's simply not true, and that is a perversion of the truth. Because the reality is that you were made in the image and likeness of God, so you are hardwired with a connection to the Supreme Being to understand what truth is and how to live your life. You don't need to have an owner's manual. You don't need to read it in some book which is full of dogma and scriptures and proverbs by guys who blatantly plagiarize it. The Bible has gone through many revisions. It's full of contradictions. So you need to understand this. You need to understand that essentially the fundamental nature of who you are is consciousness. So your physical body is a vehicle, and you are an expression of consciousness. God needs to express himself in the physical world, and to do that, it uses you, physical vehicle, to express his or her consciousness, to have an experience in our everyday life. So you can intuit wisdom and knowledge merely by your connection, by the indwelling intelligence, God, Neter, Yahweh, Jehovah, whatever you want to call him or her. God uses the vehicle to express his consciousness, to learn, and to gain from that experience. You can intuit the wisdom and knowledge that you need in order to survive in this mundane day-to-day life, simply because, as I said before, you're hardwired to do so. You don't need an intermediary. You don't need a preacher or minister to tell you, or even worse, you don't need a savior to come along and save you, because if you are in essence God having an experience, then you share in the same qualities and same power as God. And it would be unfair, realistically, to have a creator put you on this planet without being well equipped to deal with the everyday physical challenges that you will face, living on what the ancient Kemetic people call is Geb, or the earth. But you have to understand, you're being sold snake oil by these ministers and preachers because they want you to understand that you're human. Now, really listen to what I'm saying. If you buy into the paradigm that you are a human being, then that basically means that you are childlike in mentality and need to be told what to do, vis-a-vis a savior, a minister, a preacher. However, if you come from the understanding that you're a divine being who shares in the potential power of God and is expressing God's consciousness, then you understand that you are, in essence, God, and you don't need some preacher or some book to tell you how to live your life and what the right thing to do. Let's take, for example, Moses when he went on top of the mountain and came back down with the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not kill. Thou shalt not covet thy neighbor's wife. All of these so-called moral principles were already in effect before Moses went on top of some mountain and brought down some stones. Civilization was already living by this code. No one had to tell us to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? In fact, Moses was wanted for murder. So that tells you that the 10 Commandments were by that time obsolete. And to be frank with you, the 10 Commandments are nothing more than a plagiarized version of the 42 native confessions of Ma'at. Do your research and you'll see that many of the Bible stories are nothing but plagiarized versions coming out of the Babylonian, Sumerian cultures, in addition to the Kemetic cultures. So I want you to think about this. about the so-called good book, how it's being used as a means to stifle you intellectually, to get you not to think, to placate you to a set of antiquated doctrines that can't really be applied to who you are. Because the Bible is a topical treatment. And what I mean by that, it only addresses things from a very, very superficial level. And it cannot get to the heart of the matter and give you individualized wisdom for your specific situation. You need an oracle for that, but that's a topic for another discussion. Anyway, so I've given you a lot of food for thought. This is Kazakh Ma'akaparu for New World Dimensions, and that's all for now. Take care.